Hey everyone, it's Dave Porter, also known as rEnNiS to some, and I am starting a podcast today because it's May the 4th, Star Wars Day. Yes, May the 4th be with you. And I just want to discuss how I got into Star Wars and why I love it so much, because I'm a geek and Star Wars means almost everything to me. I'm very passionate about this film. I've gotten in many fights over it, many vicious arguments over it. And if you don't like Star Wars, you might as well turn this off right now because that's all I'm going to be talking about today. Anyway, when I first got into Star Wars, it was, I think, 1994. This is when the triple pack VHS of the original trilogy came out. This was pre-special edition. I remember each video had an interview with George Lucas before the movie started, and that's where he talked about how he'd written 9 episodes and he wanted to release those eventually. And at the time, I was like, yeah, whatever, just get to the movie. But afterwards, after I got into it, I was like, there's gonna be more of them. This is amazing, yes. But I remember when I first heard of Star Wars, I was watching a Saturday morning cartoon, or maybe it was a block of cartoons when I got home from school. I remember when I got home from school, I'd usually watch Animaniacs and then Batman the Animated Series. And yeah, that's another podcast though, how I got so big into Batman. But I saw a commercial during one of these cartoons, and it just showed these two robots standing on a desert. One was a short white and blue robot, and the other was a taller golden one. And the gold one was yelling at the other one, arguing with it, and it eventually kicked it in the side. And when I was a kid, I thought that was the funniest thing I'd ever seen in my life. And I was just so intrigued by these characters, these two droids, as I'd come to find out they were called, that I wanted to see more of them. And that's when it said Star Wars, the trilogy, out on VHS now, or something like that. I can't remember how the exact commercial went, but that I do vividly remember the C-3PO and R2-D2 being shown for it's probably like a 10-second scene, but that's all I needed. And I'm sorry, my first podcast, I probably sound a little crappy. My allergies are acting up, or I have a cold or something due to the spring weather just starting to come in. But let's see here. Where was I? Oh yeah, Star Wars. After I saw that commercial, I begged my parents, begged them, begged them relentlessly to get these VHS tapes for me. I said, if you get them for my birthday, that's all I want for my birthday. If I get them for Christmas, that's all I want for Christmas. And eventually, God bless their hearts, they did get it for me. And I think they hadn't realized what they'd done when they did get it, because they still hear me babble on, talk about it. I probably talk about Star Wars more than almost anything else on a daily basis, and I know that's pretty pathetic and nerdy. But hey, I'm 26, gonna be 27 soon, and married, so up yours. Anyway, when I got the movies, it was the VHS tapes, if you remember. It came in a box. The first one, A New Hope, had Darth Vader on the front. The Empire Strikes Back had a stormtrooper on the front, and Return of the Jedi, which at the time when I read it, I thought it was Return of the Jedi, had Yoda on the front, and that opened the door to me to something that will be a part of my life forever. I first watched A New Hope and saw Darth Vader for the first time. I was blown away by him. I was amazed. I was like, this is the scariest dude I've seen in my life. Huge, hulking man wearing a black cape with a scary looking mask over his face. His breath, his breathing was just terrifying at the time. Remember, I was like 6, 7, 8 years old when I watched these. And I've been a huge fan of Vader ever since. I even have a life-size cardboard stand-up peeking out my bedroom window as I record this of Darth Vader looking at passing by traffic, if that says anything. But yeah, I watched A New Hope. Instantly fell in love with Vader. Instantly fell in love with Han, Luke, Chewie. Um, of course, C-3PO, R2-D2. Obi-Wan seemed like a awesome old guy. I did at the time. I didn't understand why he just stood there and let Vader kill him. But hey, at the same time, I was kind of cheering for Darth Vader too, so that didn't bother me. I'll let you on a minute, kitties. Sorry, my cats are in the other room meowing. They went out, but my first snot of the podcast. How enjoyable. Anyway, let's see. Yeah, when I got those movies, I'm pretty sure I watched all of them in the same day, all three back to back. I just couldn't get enough of it. Loved Empire Strikes Back. It was like the most It was like Vader's triumphant moment, so to speak. But, well, I guess Return of the Jedi is more of his triumphant moment. It's his redemption, so to speak. But Vader reveals that he's Luke's father. He cuts his fucking hand off. He's just the man in that movie. But you already know that. And then Return of the Jedi. I loved the Ewoks as a kid. I'm not gonna lie. I thought they were hilarious. As I've grown more and more to watch those movies, I can't stand them now. But I say that, but I love everything Star Wars. Really, I wouldn't change a thing about it. Which brings me into a few years after the VHS tapes came out. They released the special editions in the theaters. And as you can imagine, I was more excited than anything when I heard those were coming out. I begged my parents once again, please, please take me to see these. Please, I'll do anything. And I had to make the argument because they were like, you have these on VHS. We just got them for you a year ago. Why do you want to go to the theater to see the same movie you have at home? And I said, Mom, Dad, it's the special editions. They're adding things. They're changing things. They're updating new special effects. It's going to be the greatest thing to ever happen to any movie ever. And of course, as we all know, some people would disagree with me on that. I still find plenty of enjoyment from the special editions. Han shot first, Greedo shot first. Honestly, who cares? But anyway, I went and saw those movies. When I think that was 96 or 97, maybe even 98 when those came out. It was shortly before Episode 1 came to theaters. And Episode 1 was a huge part of my childhood. That came out in 1999. I'll never forget. I was in 7th grade, and I probably went and saw that movie in the theater at least 5, 6 times while it was playing in theaters. I went with my friend Steve. I went with my parents. I went with my friend Dustin. I think I went with my friend Eric. I think I went again with Steve. I watched it so many times. It's unbelievable. I was in love with that movie. Even Jar Jar Binks at the time. Even I liked Jar Jar Binks at the time. I admit it. I admit it. I liked Jar Jar Binks. Sue me. Phantom Menace was a great movie, and I'm not afraid to say it. Yes, this is going to be a very fanboy sounding podcast, and I don't care because I love everything Star Wars. Ask my wife, she'll tell you, to the point that it annoys her. But I am definitely a Star Wars Lucas hound. And to get a little off topic, I know George Lucas sold Star Wars to Disney, and people are kind of iffy about that, but I have full faith because, for one thing, Disney owns Marvel. The Avengers turned out to be great, amazing, action-packed. They didn't do anything wrong with that. They did it the right way. And not only that, but J.J. Abrams is going to be directing Episode 7. And I mean, how can you go wrong with J.J., one of the creators of Lost? He's taken Star Trek and made it fun to watch. He's just a sci-fi god in my eyes. He also made Cloverfield, which is great. Super 8 was a fun movie to watch. So yeah, it's a great time to be a Star Wars fan. I thought for the longest time when Episode 3 came out, I said, well, that's it. That's all the Star Wars movies that we'll ever see again. I was planning on, whenever I have kids, to show them episodes 1 through 6 and show them how much it meant to their dad, and hopefully do the same thing for them. But now there's a new generation of Star Wars coming for the kids of today, and that's a good thing. I'm happy for it. But anyway, where was it? Oh yeah, after I watched Empire, I watched Return of the Jedi. I liked the Ewoks. Loved the Emperor. Even as a kid, he didn't scare me. He just cracked me up. Good. But anyway, after I watched Episode 1 about 6 times in the theater, I, of course, had to get it. I can't remember if I got it on DVD or VHS. I think DVDs were becoming readily available around the time that came out, and I think I did get that on DVD actually. But I met my friend Matt around the year 2000, 2001. Episode 2 came out around, I think, 2002 or 2003. Attack of the Clones, which some people say is terrible. Some people say is okay. Some people say it's great. Me, I'm more of the it's okay crowd. I mean, the whole love thing with Padme and Anakin, I know it's essential to the story, but I think it just kind of slowed the pace of the movie down a bit. But it's all made up for at the very end. The epic battle in the arena with all the Jedi's lightsabers lighting up at the same time. And they have that big battle with the droids. The clones come in. The Clone Wars, or sorry, begun. The Clone Wars has. Yeah, it's a terrible Yoda impersonation, but I don't care. But Clone Wars was great. I loved it. I loved it so much. Ugh. Sorry, I have a terrible leaking of my sinuses, which I know makes for great podcast material, but episode 3 was kind of a bittersweet moment for me. At the time, I was with my first wife, who was a total 100% 400-pound cunt, and she refused to let me go to the midnight opening with my brother and his friends all went. My brother dressed up as the Death Star, for fuck's sake. His friend Phil went dressed as George Lucas. They were all dressed as Star Wars characters, and it was great stuff. But I wasn't able to be included because I had a bitch of a wife at the time, who's now out of my life. Thank the heavens, thank all the gods above, because I have a much better wife now who understands my geekdom. I don't think she understands it, but she tolerates it. But I finally got to see episode 3 a few days after it came out. Cried like a baby during that movie, and I'm not afraid to admit it. I'm comfortable enough with my manhood to say that yes, I cried during Star Wars Episode 3. Seeing Anakin's tragic turn to the dark side, they did it. I thought it was very well done. People complain about that, but people complain about everything these days. So what can you do? But anyway, I'm gonna make this podcast short and sweet since it's kind of a test run anyway. Probably gonna be working on a real podcast here shortly, soon with Matt Floyd, aka Amoral Fat 40 OZ, the mind behind Vimana, and we'll have a much better podcast hopefully than this one next time around. May the 4th be with you. I'll probably be watching a marathon of the Clone Wars on my Blu-rays, even though I don't have season 4 yet, but it's $60 for that, and that's ridiculous to me. I'll probably pop in some of my favorite scenes from the movies as well. Definitely want to watch the Anakin and Obi-Wan battle from episode 3, the Battle of Hoth on Empire Strikes Back, the big fight between Vader and Luke in Return of the Jedi was a great one. But yeah, may the fourth be with you.